2023. My name is Michael Torres. I'm writing this letter because my wife, Sarah, asked me to. Not because she's dead, she's alive, healthy, sitting in the next room right now, drinking coffee and yelling at the TV, but because she beat something that tried to kill her, and she wants people to know how she did it. Not just the medical part, the mental part, the warrior part. Sarah's a Marine, was a Marine, is a Marine. She'd say, once a Marine, always a Marine, so I'll go with that. She served 2 tours in Iraq, 2014 to 2017 SAW combat, got blown up by an IED, earned a Purple Heart, came home with PTSD, a limp, and the absolute certainty that she'd survived the worst thing that would ever happen to her. She was wrong. March 2021, Sarah found a lump. Doctor's visit, mammogram, biopsy, the call that changes everything. It's cancer, breast cancer. Stage 3, aggressive. We need to start treatment immediately. She was 38 years old. We'd been married 6 years, had a 4-year-old daughter, Emma, and suddenly everything was about survival again, just like Iraq. Except this time, the enemy was inside her body and the battlefield was a hospital. I'm writing this because what Sarah did next, what she did for 2 years, changed not just her life, but everyone around her. She turned cancer treatment into a deployment, and she wore her armor to every single battle. Let me tell you what happened. March 2021, 1 week after diagnosis. Sarah's first chemotherapy appointment, Walter Reed Medical Center, oncology ward. I drove her that morning expecting, I don't know what. My wife breaking down, scared, resigned. Instead, I woke up to find her in our bedroom getting dressed, not in comfortable clothes, in her Marine Corps combat uniform, full camis, desert pattern, name tape, Torres, rank insignia, sergeant. The uniform she hadn't worn since her discharge in 2018. Sarah, what are you doing? Getting ready. For chemo. You know you can wear sweats, right? Pajamas. Something comfortable. She laced her boots tight. Proper. The way Marines do. I'm aware. Then why? Because I'm going to battle. She stood up, looked at herself in the mirror, adjusted her blouse. And Marines go to battle in uniform. I didn't argue. You don't argue with Sarah when she's made a decision. You just follow and try to keep up. We drove to Walter Reed. Sarah sat in the passenger seat, staring out the window, fingers drumming on her knee. The same thing she used to do before patrols in Iraq, nervous energy, controlled fear, readiness. We walked into the oncology ward. Other patients in the waiting room, mostly wearing soft clothes, comfortable things, looking tired and sick and scared. And then Sarah walked in, combat boots clicking on the tile floor, uniform crisp, back straight, looking like she was about to go on patrol. Everyone stared. The intake nurse looked up, did a double take. Mrs. Torres? Sergeant Torres, Sarah corrected, not rudely. Just factually, right. Sergeant Torres, follow me, please. They got her set up in the chemotherapy room. Rows of recliners where patients sit for hours while poison drips into their veins. Sarah sat down in hers. Boots still laced, uniform still perfect. The oncology nurse, her name was Patricia, 50s, kind eyes, 20 years of experience, came over to insert the IV stopped, looked at Sarah's uniform. Ma'am, you know you can wear comfortable clothes, right? Pajamas, sweats, whatever you want. You're going to be here for 6 hours. Sarah looked up at her. I know. Then, why the uniform? And that's when my wife said the thing that would define the next 2 years, the thing that other patients would remember, the thing that nurses would talk about long after Sarah left. Because I'm a United States Marine. I fought in Iraq, survived 2 tours, and I didn't survive war to lose to cancer. This uniform reminds me I'm in a fight, and Marines don't quit fights. Patricia nodded slowly, smiled. Then let's get you set up, Marine. She inserted the IV. The poison started flowing. And Sarah sat there in her combat uniform, back straight, jaw set, like she was pulling security on a convoy instead of sitting in a cancer ward. I watched other patients watching her. Saw something change in their faces. Saw them sit up a little straighter. That was the first session. There would be 23 more over the next 18 months. Sarah wore the uniform to every single one. I need to explain something about Sarah, about who she was before cancer, because it matters. She joined the Marines at 22. Right out of college, could have done anything. She had a degree in engineering, but she wanted to serve, wanted to be part of something bigger than herself. Infantry support convoy security, 2 tours in Anbar province, the real stuff, not a desk job. She was out there, in the dirt, pulling security, taking fire, watching Marines die October 2016. Her convoy hit an IED. Sarah was in the third vehicle. The blast flipped the Humvee in front of hers. Killed 2 Marines instantly. Sarah's vehicle stopped. She jumped out, against protocol, but she's Sarah, and ran to the burning Humvee to pull survivors out. Got 1 Marine out, then another. Then the vehicle exploded. Shrapnel hit her left leg, tore through her calf. She dragged the second Marine another 20 yards before her leg gave out. Medics got her stabilized, medevaced to Germany. Then Walter Reed, months of physical therapy, permanent limp, Purple Heart, medical discharge. She came home different. PTSD, nightmares, survivor's guilt, the usual stuff combat veterans carry, but also stronger, harder, like she'd proven something to herself that she couldn't unprove, that she could survive anything. And then cancer tried to prove her wrong. The chemotherapy was brutal. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. They pumped poison into her veins every other week, poison designed to kill fast-growing cells, cancer cells, but also hair cells, stomach cells, immune cells. Sarah lost her hair by week 3. All of it. Eyebrows, eyelashes, everything. She looked in the mirror, shrugged, said, "Had a high and tight in Iraq anyway," and moved on. She was nauseous constantly, threw up after every session, couldn't eat, lost 30 pounds. Her skin turned gray. Her energy disappeared. But every Tuesday morning she'd get up, put on that uniform, and go to battle. I'd watch her get dressed. Some mornings she could barely stand, legs shaking, hands trembling from the chemo. But she'd put on the camis, lace the boots, adjust the name tape. "Sarah, you don't have to wear the uniform. You can wear sweats. You can be comfortable." I'm not trying to be comfortable. I'm trying to win. It's the same treatment either way. It's not about the treatment. It's about the mindset. And that was the thing. That was what I didn't understand at first, but came to understand over 2 years. Sarah wasn't wearing the uniform for the doctors, or the nurses, or even the other patients. She was wearing it for herself. Because the uniform was armor not against the cancer. The chemo was fighting that. But against the fear. Against the feeling of being a victim. Against the loss of control that cancer brings. When Sarah put on that uniform, she wasn't a sick woman going to treatment. She was a Marine going on a mission, and that mental shift, that identity shift, made all the difference. By month 3, the other patients noticed, started asking questions. There was an elderly man, Vietnam veteran, prostate cancer. He'd been coming to chemo for months, always in soft clothes, always looking defeated. After seeing Sarah in uniform for the 3rd time, he approached her. "Excuse me, miss, you're military?" "Marines, 2 tours, Iraq." "Why do you wear the uniform?" Sarah looked at him. "Because I'm still fighting. Cancer's just a different enemy, and I don't show up to fights in pajamas." The next week, the Vietnam vet showed up wearing his old army jacket. Faded, didn't fit quite right, but he wore it. Sat up straighter in his chair, smiled for the first time in months. "Figured if you can wear your uniform, I can wear mine." Sarah nodded. "Semper Fi, soldier." "Hua, Marine." There was a young mother, 32, breast cancer like Sarah. She'd been wearing pajamas, looking exhausted, defeated. After a month of watching Sarah, she showed up in her old college softball uniform. Jersey, cap, the whole thing. "I played Division I," she told Sarah. "Thought, if you can dress like a warrior, I can dress like an athlete. We're both fighters, right?" "Damn right we are." A teacher with lung cancer started wearing his graduation robes to some sessions. A firefighter wore his department t-shirt. A grandmother wore her wedding dress once. "I beat 70 years of life. I can beat this." Sarah started something. Reminded people that treatment wasn't about being comfortable. It was about being strong. About refusing to let cancer define you. The nurses started calling Tuesday mornings warrior sessions because that's when Sarah came in, and that's when other patients would show up in their own versions of armor. But it wasn't all inspiring. It wasn't all easy. There were days Sarah broke down. Month 6, middle of treatment. Sarah was in bad shape. The chemo was cumulative, each session worse than the last. She'd lost 40 pounds, could barely walk, threw up constantly. One Tuesday morning, I found her sitting on the edge of the bed, uniform laid out beside her, crying. "I can't do it today. I can't put it on. I can't go back there." I sat next to her. "Okay, we'll reschedule." "No, I have to go. If I miss a session, the cancer wins." "Sarah, you're allowed to be weak sometimes. Marines aren't weak. You're not just a Marine. You're human. You're sick. You're allowed to break." She looked at me, tears streaming down her face. "If I break, I die. If I let myself be a victim, cancer wins. The uniform is the only thing keeping me together, the only thing reminding me I'm a fighter." "You are a fighter, with or without the uniform. Then help me put it on because I can't do it alone today." So I helped her into the uniform, laced her boots because her hands were shaking too much, drove her to Walter Reed, walked her into the ward because she couldn't walk steady. Patricia saw us come in, saw Sarah barely able to stand but still in uniform. "Sergeant Torres, you don't have to." "Yes, I do." Sarah's voice was weak but firm. "I made a commitment to fight, and Marines keep commitments." Patricia got her settled in the chair, started the fourth. The poison started flowing. Sarah closed her eyes, whispered something I'd heard her whisper 100 times during her Iraq nightmares. "Stay in the fight. Stay in the fight. Stay in the fight." That was her mantra. In Iraq, in cancer treatment, in everything. Stay in the fight. Month 12. Halfway through treatment, Sarah's oncologist called us in for a scan review. "The tumors are shrinking, significantly. The chemotherapy is working. We're going to keep going. But I wanted you to know, you're winning." Sarah nodded. Didn't smile, didn't celebrate, just nodded. "Good. What's next?" "More chemo. Then surgery to remove what's left. Then radiation. Then reconstruction if you want. We're looking at another 6 months minimum." "Then that's what we do." After we left the office, Sarah was quiet. I thought she'd be happy. The treatment was working. But she just looked tired. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. Everything's right. The plan is working." "Then why aren't you happy?" "Because I'm not done yet." You don't celebrate in the middle of a firefight. You celebrate when everyone's home safe. That was Sarah. Never let herself feel relief until the war was over, month 18. Final chemotherapy session. Sarah walked into the oncology ward one last time, full uniform. Boots shined, name tape perfect, like she was going to a change of command ceremony instead of her last poison drip. The nurses had decorated her chair. Balloons, signs saying, "Warrior" and "Semper Fi," and "Congratulations, Marine." Other patients, some of the ones who'd started dressing up because of Sarah, were waiting, the Vietnam vet in his army jacket, the softball mom in her jersey, the teacher in his graduation robes. 10 patients total, all there to watch Sarah ring the bell. That's what they do when you finish chemo. You ring a bell, it's tradition. Marks the end of treatment. Patricia started the final IV. Last one, Sergeant. Last one. 6 hours later, the poison stopped flowing. Patricia removed the IV. Sarah stood up, walked over to the bell mounted on the wall. She looked at me, at Patricia, at the other patients, at the oncology ward that had been her battlefield for 18 months. And she rang that bell, 3 times, hard. Like she was calling cadence, the ward erupted, patients clapping, nurses crying. The Vietnam vets stood and saluted. Sarah saluted back. Patricia hugged her. "You did it, Marine. You beat it. We beat it. This ward, these people, we all fought together. But you led the charge." Sarah smiled. First real smile I'd seen in months. That's what Marines do. But it wasn't over. Not really. After chemo came surgery, double mastectomy. Sarah chose not to do reconstruction immediately. "I'll deal with that later. And right now, I just want the cancer gone." The surgery was successful, clean margins, no cancer cells left. Then radiation, 5 days a week for 6 weeks, 30 sessions total. Burning the tissue to kill any remaining cells. Sarah wore the uniform to radiation too, every single session, even though radiation only took 15 minutes, even though most people just wore a hospital gown. She'd show up in full camis, change into the gown for treatment, then put the uniform back on immediately after the radiation tech asked her about it once. "Why do you keep wearing the uniform? The hard part is over. You beat the cancer." "The hard part isn't over until I'm declared cancer-free, and even then, it's never really over. Cancer can come back. This is just extended deployment. And I stay in uniform until I'm home safe." September 2023, 2.5 years after diagnosis. Sarah's oncologist called us in. Final scans, final blood work, final check. "No evidence of disease, you're in remission." "Officially?" Sarah nodded. "For how long?" "We'll monitor you every 3 months for the first year, then every 6 months. But as of right now, you're cancer-free." That night, Sarah took off the uniform, hung it back in the closet. First time in 2.5 years it wasn't laid out, ready for the next battle. "It's over?" I asked. "The active fighting is over. Now comes the rest of my life, wondering if it'll come back. But yeah, this deployment is over." "How do you feel?" She thought about it. Grateful, exhausted, proud, scared, all of it. "You won, Sarah. You beat cancer." "We beat cancer. You, me, Emma, the doctors, the nurses, the other patients. It wasn't just me. But you led the way. You showed everyone how to fight." She smiled, tired but genuine. "That's what the uniform was for, to remind myself I knew how to fight, and to remind everyone else that they could too." Last week, Sarah got a letter. From Patricia, her oncology nurse Patricia had retired. 25 years of treating cancer patients, and she was finally done. But she wanted Sarah to know something. "Sergeant Torres, in my 25 years as an oncology nurse, I've treated thousands of patients, but I've never seen anyone approach cancer the way you did. You turned treatment into a mission. You made that oncology ward into a battlefield where people fought together instead of suffered alone. You reminded us all, staff and patients, that cancer treatment isn't about being comfortable. It's about being strong. After you finished treatment, we had 12 other patients start wearing their own versions of battle dress. Veterans wearing uniforms, athletes wearing jerseys. One woman wore her PhD graduation robes. You started something. You showed people that how you face cancer matters as much as what treatment you receive. Thank you for your service, both in Iraq and in our oncology ward. You're the most decorated warrior I ever had the honor of treating." Semper Fi, Patricia. Sarah cried, reading that letter, first time I'd seen her cry in years. "You okay?" "Yeah, I didn't realize it mattered. The uniform. I was just trying to survive." "You did more than survive. You showed people how to fight." "I showed them what a Marine would do. That's all." "That's everything." Sarah still has the uniform, still keeps it in the closet, doesn't wear it anymore. No need. But it's there. Ready? Just in case. Because cancer can come back. That's the thing they don't tell you. Remission isn't cure. It's just a ceasefire. And Sarah knows that, lives with that. But she's not scared anymore. If it comes back, she told me last week, I know exactly what I'll do. What? Put on the uniform, go back to battle, and win again. That's my wife, the Marine who refused to let cancer make her a victim, who wore her armor to every battle, who inspired an entire oncology ward to fight instead of suffer. I'm writing this because Sarah asked me to, because she wants people to know cancer is a war, and wars require warriors, and warriors wear armor. For Sarah, that armor was a Marine Corps combat uniform. For you, it might be something else. Your old jersey, your work clothes, your wedding dress, your graduation cap. Whatever reminds you that you're a fighter, not a victim. But wear it, put on your armor, go to battle, and refuse to quit. Because that's what warriors do. That's what Sarah did. And she won. Subscribe for more stories of warriors who redefine strength, refuse to be victims, and prove that some battles aren't fought with weapons. They're fought with identity, determination, and the absolute refusal to surrender.